Faith and Food is an event we have once a month. I was honored to be the first speaker at this event. I talked about prayer. Now, 55 students from the campus showed up. We gave them free food, and then afterwards we had a talk on prayer. I want you guys to see this. Unfortunately, I didn't get video of it, but I do have an audio voice of it. The pictures were taken from another talk that I've given, so it wasn't in a church. It was more in a open setting, round tables, people just gathering normally. So, yeah, text me, let me know, leave a comment, let me know what you think. All right, take it easy. So a little bit about me. I went to Arizona State University. I did civil engineering there for 4 years. The last year, in my senior year, Focus came to town. Didn't know who they were. They asked me to join a Bible study at church once, and I was like, no thanks, I'm good with church. And a little bit later, I just got more involved with them. Started seeing them at the gym all the time. They were much more buff than I, so started asking them for help, and they gave me my first protein and pre-workout. And that pre-workout is like crack. It's pretty crazy. If you guys ever want to work out, that's what you got to go to do. And I was talking, I was like, you know what? I really want to go on a mission trip though. What about that? And they're like, yeah, we have 50 mission trips. So I go on this mission trip in Africa. That's kind of where my story all begins. There was this one time I got real sick, but everybody else, they were going to go into this village, talk about God to all these people in Africa. Never heard about Jesus Christ before. They're going into the village, and well, I'm sick. I'm staying home. They're telling me they'll be back by noon. Well, it's 4 p.m. and they're not home yet, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, shoot, they all got killed. The Africans didn't like Jesus, and they shut up. And I'm here in Africa all on my own, and I don't know how to get back. Like, where's the embassy? I don't know. Like, I'm white, no one else is. Like, what's going on? So I was really scared. The only thing I could think of doing at the time was praying. You know, just it's like, all right, you know, let's try this out. So I was in the chapel for 4 hours straight until 8 p.m. on my knees, and I was like, I'm gonna go all out. I know people go on their knees sometimes to pray. I'm just gonna go on my knees. All right, I'm gonna stay up straight. I'm not gonna lay down. I'm not gonna sleep. So I'm 4 hours into prayer, and I just get this huge relaxation, like everything's okay. I'm like, all right. So I walk back in. About 2 hours later, they come back, and they're like, oh my gosh, we gotta tell you what just happened. They told me when they were going to this village, like it was raining, it was pouring, they couldn't get through, like trees were falling in their path and they had to like brush out the trees. They had 2 flat tires to just get to this village. It's like this 15-ton truck taking all these missionaries. Well, they finally get to this village. This village is a pagan village, so they have their idols. They all have their idols out, showing us just the kids that are about to be sacrificed to the gods, you know, by just like no one cares for them. They're like dogs of the village. They just feed them. Anyways, they have mass and or church. They have a service, and during that mass, like they hear a big crash and they have no idea what's going on. So they wait until after church is over. They go outside. Their house of idols, like where they kept all their idols, collapsed during this preaching of Jesus Christ, like Old Testament stuff. It was ridiculous, like, oh, dang. And like they were yelling, they were screaming, they didn't know what to do. And then they had a lot more questions after that. So that was really cool, and I was like, oh shoot, I missed out. And then the priest came up to me, and he was like, hey man, you were there with us, I appreciate it. And I'm like, oh thanks, yeah, I was there, sure, in prayer. He's like, no, I'm serious, were you praying from this time to this time? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you were there with us. And like this guy's like super holy, and I'm like, oh dang, okay. This prayer stuff actually does work. I was praying like half for them, half for me, so because I was so scared. But that's kind of my first experience with prayer. Just that, how that happened. I started giving God more of a chance and stuff. So what is prayer to begin off with? Prayer is just a conversation with God. You're just talking to God. Like, what does a conversation look like? There's a new girl in town. Oh, she's cute. I'm going to get her number. All right, got her number. Cool. You get God's number. It's pretty easy. Lord, Oh, there you go, that's his number. So that's the first step. Second step of talking to a girl. Hey, how you doing? I'm not busy. You're totally busy, but you want to play it cool, you know? Same thing with God. You know, hey Lord, I'm not busy. I can talk right now. Yeah, you're busy. You got tests, but you're taking that time to spend with them. Just that conversation. What happens when you're in conversation with a person? Like when I was dating this girl, super sweet, pretty girl from Houston, you know, they have that Houston twang, like, oh my gosh, I love that sweet tea so delicious. And so I started like coming up with the drawl, like I started imitating her. I started drinking sweet tea in the morning because, yeah, it is pretty good. McDonald's has it for $1, why not? And it just like, as I got to know her more, I started to imitate her. All her goods, all her bads, she started imitating me. That's just how we are as people. You start to imitate the people that you become closest with. So what is prayer? Well, prayer is basically imitation of God. If you're getting to know God a little bit more, you're eventually going to start imitating him. You take on his good and you take on his, well, he doesn't have any bad. So that's pretty nice. So you're imitating all his good things that are happening. I took salsa for 3 years, and when you're at salsa, when you're at a salsa club or just at a regular club, they're doing salsa, one way to get better is watching other people. And I'd watch other people and be like, oh, I like that he's doing. Oh, I like what he's doing there. Oh, I like doing what he's doing there. And just at class, like, oh, this person like is real good with the hips. I need to get into that hip action. But that's what I felt like I was doing with my prayer life too. Like it was such an outward, because dancing is all the outward. You know, there's so much soul into it. That's when you get super advanced. But like when you look at dancing, it's all outward. It's all outward appearance, the show. So my prayer life was a lot like that, especially in Africa. It was all outward. It was all for show. So I was like, oh, when that guy took that real deep breath, like for 3 seconds at the beginning of his prayer, I like that. I'm going to do that to mine. That makes me look pretty good prayer. You know, and then someone else would do something else, and like, oh man, whoa, he looks really holy, or oh wow, she does this really good. I'm gonna do that. So I was like making this list of things of how to look like the best prayer, and I did them all, like all the bells and whistles, like I was salsa dancing. You know, just people would be like, oh my gosh, that guy knows how to pray. Well, that didn't get me anywhere, obviously. So I remember in Africa, I came up to the pastor and I was like, hey, I don't have a relationship with God. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be straight up with you. Like I hear it all the time. Like I pray, I go to church and stuff. I'm not down with it, and I don't know how to. And I want to. I want to try this. This is after the experience I had with this 4-hour prayer. And he was like, well, get conversation from him. Get conversation started. And I'm like, yeah, it's always one way. Like, how can you hear something back? He's like, well, have you ever like read the Bible? I was like, oh, yeah, okay, all right. He's like, there's a whole story about Jesus, you know, called the Gospels. I was like, all right, fair enough. He was pretty slick. Anyways, that's how I began like the conversations, just small conversations, like reading what stuck out to me. Oh, for some reason this word stuck out to me. Why did this word stick out to me? I don't know. Is there a reason? Oh, wait, why? Whoa, what's happening? That really helped me get more into like hearing, like taking it in instead of just like, all right, this is my shopping list of to-dos, Lord. If you could make these get done, that'd be great. But now it turned into more of like, what do you want me to get done? What do you want my shopping list to look like? And so first it came with scripture, and then second, I was like, you know what, I really need to start working. So I was the engineer on this mission trip in Africa. It's a long mission trip, it's 5 weeks, so a lot of things went down. The priest made me do all the work, so like the roads needed reconstructing, so he'd be like, hey, you're a civil engineer, think of an idea. Hey, I need to call like villagers without using phones, think of an idea. I'm like, oh my gosh. So like doing all these things, and then he said, hey, there's a door in the chapel. I want it to have like the electronic pin pass that like the fancy hotels have. Here it is, go make it happen. And I'm like, gosh, dang, who do you think I am? But all right, whatever. So I tried it, and I'm working on this door for 2 hours. And these doors are like super thick doors. I mean, not really like this. But it's like all wood. This like middle of Africa, they don't have like, nice little machine works that make a door, but there was like this little square, and I basically had to carve out a whole circle out of this small square that used to be the door handle. It took me like 2 hours just to like start getting somewhere, and I just gave up. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna try this whole prayer thing. I'm gonna try to listen. And so I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm gonna start with, just whatever. So I was like, Lord, I don't know. And he's like, hey, you never do a rosary. And rosary with the Catholic faith is, I'll talk about that more, but for people that know, it's like Hail Mary, full of grace, if you've heard of that. So I started doing that. I was like, I never do that one. All right, I'll try that one. So I try that one, and like all of a sudden in my mind, it's like, I'm not a carpenter, but my husband is. I was like, what? Okay. So I was like, all right, St. Joseph, like, help me out. So I started asking Joseph, the carpenter, to help me out, and through Joseph, like talking, like just like, Jesus, please, like, help me learn, like you learned your trade from St. Joseph, or from your dad. And like right at that very second, like my mom was going crazy, I swear I was going crazy. He's like, drop your tools. I'm like, no, you don't understand, I've been working on the store for 2 hours. I need to get it done. He's like, no, drop your tools. Fine, whatever. Drop my tools, I'm going crazy, whatever. And it's like going to the garage. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna follow my mind. I'm going to the garage. Well, once this like stops, and then he's like, go to the toolbox. I'm like, oh shit, there's a toolbox here. Okay, okay. I was like, this is weird, but this is just my mind. This is just my mind. Look in the third drawer. It's like, oh, that's pretty specific. Look in the third drawer, and I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. There's wood, screws, and drill bits there. And I was like, what? All right. So I picked it out. I was like, touche, Jesus, touche. Got it, put it on my drill bit. Boom, 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 done. Door, circle, done. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this again. Start praying again. Start just asking the Lord to help me. And this happened, but for the sake of time, I'll tell you guys if you ever want me to tell you later, but for the sake of time, this happened like 5 more times. Where just drop your tools, go into the garage, and he told me not only what to get, but the exact location of where to go. There's this one time, like this is like the 4th time. Anyways, in the door handle, you have to not only drill a hole here, but you have to drill a hole here. Well, I made this hole here too big, so I had to replace it with something other than wood. And I'm like, oh shoot, I messed it up. Nice job, Jesus, this is all you. And he's like, oh, don't worry, drop your tools. And I'm like, oh, God, like I still didn't believe. After like this happened 3 times, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it, but this time you're gonna be wrong. This time you're gonna be wrong. He's like, go to the wood pile. All right, went to the wood pile. I'm like, don't need wood, nice try. He's like, I didn't say get the wood, just say go to the wood pile. All right, wood pile. Now what? Pick it up. I don't need wood. Oh,